to a watercolor tutorial. My name is Kenzie and today we're going to be painting this cute skate. So this one's again probably one of my top 3 paintings that I did out of this collection. This was a lot of fun and I loved how it turned out and I hope you do as well. Feel free to send me some pictures of your completed work. I'd love to see it. Now let's get started. Let's go over our supplies. So right here I have my 2 water cups. I have one for warm, one for cool water. I have here my dryer. I got this on Amazon and I'm able to dry my layers very quickly. I have my tapping cloth where I tap excess water on here handy. I also have my Winsor Newton watercolor palette. You'll see all of these colors that I use inside your ebook that's emailed to you. I use these brushes a lot. This is my oval mop and I usually just use this to cover large surfaces with water. And then I have this oval brush as well that I like to use when I'm painting certain flowers. I use masking fluid a lot. This acts as a barrier between the page and the layer that you want to paint over top. You let it dry, take off the masking fluid, and what is underneath is paper. So this is really good, but always make sure that you have an old brush handy because this does get very goopy. So always have an old brush so you don't destroy a nice brush. I have right here my bleed proof white. This is my Dr. Martens. I use it all the time. It's a very pigmented white. It's awesome. These are the brushes that I use all the time. I love this particular brush because the bristles are very soft and I can get a very nice pointed tip so I can get lots of detail. So the size I use a lot is size 8, 12, and 4, and this is a silver black velvet brush. I also recommend having masking tape. Any painter's tape from the dollar store works perfectly fine. I like to paint my paintings down. I like when it leaves a border, and it's really nice if you have an extra cardboard sheet handy that you can move your projects around and not be tied down to your desk. You'll also see I'm a messy painter, so this has definitely helped contain some of the mess on my desk. Let's jump right into this. So I have my little figure skate here, and I want this figure skate to be white. I have to kind of focus on the shadows. So you'll see here I already have mixed up a little bit of a gray color. So to make gray with watercolor, all you want to do is just grab some black and then add a ton of water. And if you're just starting out with watercolor, it's probably a really good idea that you have a scratch piece of paper handy. That way you can just test it to make sure you haven't gone too dark. If you go too dark with watercolor, it's really hard to layer on top and it just kind of messes up your painting. All right, so to focus on the white skate, I'm gonna shadow around my figure skate and mostly focus on blending out my ink marks. So you'll see here, I'm going around the outer part of my skate. I'm going to stop right there. I have another brush that I'm going to go to my size 8 brush. So you'll see here I have a big line. I don't love lines. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to just touch the very edge. See how I'm just touching the edge? And I just blended that out. So now I don't have any harsh lines. Blended out really well. And we're going to do the wet on wet technique. So you'll see here that this part is already wet, so I'm going to apply another wet surface on top, and this will just create a really natural bleed and blend. So I came in with a little bit of a darker shade of gray, and I just touched the heel of the boot. I'm going to touch down here where there's like a slight curve, and if you're seeing this is blending out a little bit too much, you can just scoop up any excess color that you don't love with just a little bit of water on a damp brush. So I'm going along the edge now a little bit more. Again, using this other brush to kind of just control where it is bleeding. I'm going to shadow just in between the little bow area. I'm going to scoop it up a little bit right here so it just kind of puts the emphasis on certain parts of the boot. Okay, so I'm going to repeat what I just did, but this time over here, I'm coming at a nice angle. Touch it and blend it like that. So now I have a really nice blend of colors. So while this is wet, I also just don't love the idea that it's just black. So I've just mixed a little bit of a really light brown color, and I can just touch different parts of where I've already shadowed just to give it a little bit more color and a little bit more pop as well. And then I'm going to come in with the wash of brown right in here in between my laces. Now, wash is when you have more water than you do paint on your brush. And I'm just going to fill in the very edge in between each of the laces. You'll see that there's little lines. This is just supposed to mimic the other part of the shoe. So just going in between my laces, going all the way down on the right side, just like that. So I can't work on this part right here because this is still dry. I do have a dryer, but I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a little bit more time and work down here. So I'm gonna, again, just use a nice gray color. I'm gonna mix in just a little bit of blue into my gray, and I'm gonna come in and apply this color for the blade of the skate. And you're gonna wanna work pretty fast here because we're gonna do a little bit of a scooping technique and also a little bit of that wet on wet with some shadows. So you'll see here I'm moving fairly fast. Try my best to stay in the lines. Okay, cool. So with just water on my brush now, I'm gonna come in and I'm just gonna scoop up and create a really nice highlight, scooping some of that gray. And then I can come in with a little bit of a darker shade of gray, and I can just tap different points as well, and it'll just really make it stand out while it's still wet. Coming around the edges right here. Coming in here. And if you feel like it's just too dark or there's some lines, you can just blend it out again with just some water. Okay. And then while it's still wet as well, you can just come in and just touch different points as well, even towards the bottom. It just really will emphasize that nice highlight that we got going as well. Okay, cool. So that part's now dry. I'm gonna come in with a gray blackish color to it, and I'm gonna come and just touch around little marks that I have right here to just represent some of the stitching with the skate. And I just went with a brownish color. I can't remember if I already said that or not. And then even on the inside right here, just try not to go inside of the shoelaces itself, but you can definitely put in a little bit of details. Okay, cool. You guys ready for the time-consuming part? Let's do the inside of the skate. So I have a little bow here with a little bit of a crease on the inside. So I'm just looking at my shoelace part and I'm trying my best to kind of figure out what part is shoelace, what part is the background, or what do they call it, the tongue of the skate. And I'm filling that in, and I mixed just like a little bit of a bluish grayish color. It honestly just looks like little triangles. We have one diamond here in the middle. Try a little bit of a highlight in here too. It's just a little dark. All right. So again, skipping around so each part kind of has time to dry. I'm going to mix a darker black grayish color, and I'm going to come in and fill in this heel part. And again, you'll see that I did not go full black. There is a nice gray tone to it. And playing around with black, it can be challenging. So again, just use that scratch piece of paper before applying any type of color to your skate. Try my best to go fast, but also stay inside the lines. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and when she saw me drawing this, she was so excited. She was begging me, "Mommy, can I please, please, please paint this one?" So I'll have to print her off some too. So you'll see here, I'm just lifting again, different areas, trying to just have a little bit of a highlight zone. I can come in with a darker black for my shadows, touching different parts as well. Okay, fine. I love how this is looking so far. Okay, so the most challenging, most time-consuming part is definitely going to be the laces. So using the grayish heel part that we just did, I'm going to mix in a little bit more blue just to break up the gray. I don't want it to be too dark. And then coming around these edges, I am going to use 2 brushes. I'm going to apply that darker color. I'm going to use my small size 4 brush, and I am literally just going to be touching the edge and bringing it out like that. And if I feel like it's just a little bit too light, I can just go in and just really ever so slightly tap the outside to have a very natural blend with my lace. And I'm going to repeat all the way around. So I'm going in with that darker color, just a hair till about there. I am going to use my damp brush, and I'm going to drag out this little shadow area. And you'll notice as well, I'm stopping right before the overlapping lace. I'm not going over it. So for the opposite side, I am going to use the same color, but just with a lot more water. And I'm just going to literally just paint the whole thing. And I'm just painting it a little bit of a grayish color. Just like that. And then on the other side, actually, I need to dry that. Let me dry that real quick. Yeah, and then for the other side, we are going to use more of that darker color as well, and we're going to drag it out. So with a little bit of a darker gray, I'm going to come around just the edges just a little bit over here and apply that nice darker gray color around here. And this is going to be our second layer, and this will really just kind of make this part pop. And I can go in and just drag it up just a little bit. Into the lace. And you can even come in and kind of just shadow out different areas underneath the lace or over top, just to make different parts kind of stand out just a little bit more with this color. And if we want to at this point, we can come in and just add another layer on top of this shadow part. To just different points. Okay, cool. Come in, you're gonna shadow underneath. Wherever you kind of want there to be a little bit of an extra depth and dimension, we can just go in and add a little bit more, especially with some of these laces. We just want them just to pop. So I think the trick here is to just make sure that when you are shadowing, you're not completely covering the whole lace. You're kind of picking a side and kind of focusing in on that, so that way there is a shadow and a natural highlight as well. And it really just kind of helps make these laces pop. Because if you just cover everything with darkness, it's all just going to be dark. All right, so I'm pretty happy. Oh, other than this little line right here I've created. Just blending that out with just some water. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with how this skate has turned out. I'm gonna start working on this top part right here. All right, so I'm gonna start with my little candy cane, and I have like a sandy brownish color already mixed in, and I just mixed in a little bit of yellow to it. And what I'm gonna do, you know what, it's a little too yellow. I'm gonna come in and really quickly paint this candy cane with this color. And I'm saying quickly because we want to do that wet on wet technique again with a little bit of a gray, and just touch different parts where there would be more of like a shadow area around the sides. And then with just a damp brush, I'm going to come up and kind of scoop for a highlight. Just like that. And if you just scoop too much, you can come in, just add a little bit more to your sides. I'm just adding a little bit more depth and darkness to this corner right here. And then repeating down here what I just did over top, but I'm gonna add a little bit more of a shadow, like directly under this little bow area right here. Oh, I must have flicked out, so I'm just using water to get rid of this little mark right here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to dry this so I'm able to move on to the other one. Actually, I'm going to scoop up just a little bit more. It's pretty dark. Okay. So now, because we did our shadow first, this will just literally sit underneath that red and we'll just get the effect that it is curved. So again, just repeating what we just did, going in and applying the color, and then we're going to scoop up the middle. I'm going to use a smaller brush. Oh, for Pete's sake, what did I just do? There we go. I'm just scooping up that brown just a little bit, and then just coming in with a nice gray. And try not to have too much water on your brush, otherwise it will just start to spread that much quicker, which we don't really want. And then right in here it would be shadowed because it's kind of tucked behind it. And then you can just use a damp brush to direct where you want your shadows to be. Have a little bit more control over them. And then underneath this one right here, adding a little bit more of a shadow to make it look like it's underneath that candy cane right by the candy cane. All right, cool. So I'm gonna dry this. And now we can decorate with the red. So I'm using my cadmium red. I'm gonna grab a lot of pigment versus a wash with more water in it. So I'm using a lot of pigment, so it's really bright. And there's a hair in my brush. Okay, so I'm gonna come in and create my stripes. This is really small for me, so I'm trying to take my time. And you can even have another brush handy and just touch the center and scoop it up like this. So there's a little highlight in the center, and I'm going to do a different pattern. So it's a little bit thinner, and then I'll leave, yeah. And we'll scoop it up in the middle. And you want a damp brush. This is very nerve-wracking. I feel like I don't always have the best hand. Yeah, I could never be a surgeon. I do not have a steady hand. Yeah, that one wasn't angled so much. I just went in and tried to angle a little bit more. So now that that one's really thick, I'm gonna come around and just make this one a little bit more angled. See, I'm not doing a great job at the angles. There we go. All right, and as we come around the edge, you want the top part to be a lot thicker than the bottom curve. Sorry, I was trying to think of the word there. So the top of the candy cane is going to be a lot thicker then the bottom, and again, that will just give the kind of illusion that your candy cane is curving. And you can decorate these candy canes however you like. It doesn't have to be the same as mine. For the bow, I want to have a red bow, but I want there to be some snowflakes on the bow. So I'm gonna grab here my masking fluid, and I'm gonna come in with one of my really thin brushes that I have, and I am going to make little snowflake designs. So I have her here. I'm using sap green and my other green. All right, so I have some lines over here just to kind of help out. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna create some pines. So we're just gonna go up and just create some flicks. And trying your best not go into your candy cane. We could actually put some masking fluid over top if we wanted to. If you're nervous about going into your candy cane, you can definitely put some masking fluid over it. But I'm just gonna try to be gentle and intentional with my flicks. But also knowing me, I will probably get some green into my candy cane. Okay, so this would be my first layer, so I want to introduce a little bit more of some dark tones to it. So I'm going to mix in a little bit of brown, and I am actually going to apply some of this dark brown. Sorry, I just added a little bit of black to it. And I'm going to apply some of it just towards down the middle part. And I'm doing almost like little dots, like I'm kind of lifting up, breaking, just so it looks like the center of my pine. I add a little bit more black to this color and just touch some again with a darker color. And you'll see how, because I didn't go straight black, there is a little bit of brown and green undertone to it. I feel like it's blending a lot better. It's not just so in your face black. All right, so I'm gonna mix a little bit more green. I'm gonna come in and do some more flicks with that darker color. I'm gonna mix up different types of greens for every pine that we have here, just so that there is some variation with our green. I'm gonna go in with my first layer of red. I'm using more of a wash to this. Fill in the bow, and just like we've been doing before, we're gonna get just a damp brush and we're gonna scoop up the middle. There's a lot of water here. There we go. And I'm gonna move around. So now I'm gonna do my ribbon part. the masking fluid just repels away the paint. So left underneath is going to be the paper. I can already see some of my snowflakes are a little wonky, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to dry this because I want to work in sections to. All right, so because this is going to be technically the wet on dry right here where the creases are, you'll see how when it touches, it's just automatically darker, which is exactly what we want. We could technically come in here and we could paint everything red, but I just like, especially doing bows, I like working in sections because it does give it that natural crease, that natural divide, and a nice layer. I'm gonna move some of this red towards the center so it's just a little bit darker in here. All right, so I'm gonna grab, again, that damp brush, and I'm gonna lift off up right here and leave a little bit of a highlight. Kind of come right in here. Okay, and I'm gonna repeat on the other side. All right, I'm gonna grab my highlighted area right here. And I'm gonna dry this before I'll touch on the bottom part of the ribbon. All right, so I just mixed up a little bit of purple with this red, and this is gonna be our shadow color for this bow. I'm gonna come in now and go underneath. Like this. All right, and then I'm gonna add just a few little crease marks in here. You know what? And then I'm going to blend it out with just a little bit of water so that the lines just aren't that harsh. I can even come into the sides right here and add a bit of a highlight, shadow. Just like that. And I can even come down here as well to the bottom. Ah! Okay, I guess this part's gonna be a thicker bow. And blend it out. And we can even add a little bit of shadow right directly. And then where the knot is as well, I can add a little bit of shadow just to emphasize the difference between the shadow and the highlight area right there. But I want it to be a little bit darker right here towards the bottom. Okay, cool. So before you can take off the masking fluid, if you decided to do the masking fluid, you have to completely let this dry. Otherwise, you're gonna see that it's going to either like smudge your page or kind of rip it. So let's dry it 100%. So this is dry now, so I can just use the very tip of my finger and I can take off, and it leaves cute little snowflakes. And if you have this bleed proof white, you can actually come in and fix up any lines that you have. I like to use a lot of the pigment so it's like really strong. Definitely less water, more paint for this. And you can come in and just crisp up any lines that you have. Okay, so now that we're pretty much done with the majority of the painting, we can come in and just add some final details. Like here down at the heel, I just want to add a little bit of really light flicks. Just give it the illusion that there's a little bit of texture to the bottom of the skate. Try not to go into the highlighted area too much. And if there's anything else that you want to do at this point, if you want to add some more shadows areas to make it stand out, you can do so. I'm going to add just a little bit more love to my laces. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how everything has turned out. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. Send me some photos of your completed work. I'd love to see what you have painted, and happy painting!